You ever notice how the scariest stories don't start with screaming or blood or monsters? They start with something painfully normal. A cafeteria, a locker, a hallway you've walked 100 times. That's the trick. That's how it gets you. Because the moment you feel safe enough to stop paying attention is the moment something else starts paying attention to you. And once you realize that, once you really feel it settle in your bones, you start replaying moments from your past and wondering which ones were already halfway to being horror stories and you just didn't know it yet. When I think about that first day at Southern Lehigh, I don't remember the classes or the teachers or even the building. I remember carrying that stupid plastic tray, scanning the cafeteria like it was a battlefield, every table already claimed, every laugh feeling like it was aimed directly at me. Being new isn't just awkward, it's isolating in a way that makes you desperate. Desperate enough to sit with strangers. Desperate enough to ignore tiny warning bells because being alone feels worse than being uncomfortable. That's how Antonio and Bruno slid into my life. Twins. Same face, same smile, same calm voices. They felt safe, familiar, like a shortcut out of loneliness. And I didn't question why the least intimidating table in the room ended up being the most dangerous place I could have chosen. By the time the cemetery came up, it already felt normal. That's the part people don't get. Horror doesn't kick the door down right away. It asks politely. 9 at night. A short walk. A cool spot by a lake. I remember thinking how cinematic it all felt, like I was finally doing something interesting instead of sitting in my room. The dark didn't scare me at first. The quiet didn't either. It was only when the wood swallowed the road behind me that the night started to feel heavy, like it was leaning in. Branches scraping, my phone light shaking in my hand, their location pulling me deeper. And then the footsteps. Slow, careful, like whoever was walking knew I was listening. When the hands hit my neck, it wasn't dramatic. It was clumsy and frantic and real. Nails digging in. Someone shouting for someone else to grab me. The kind of chaos that doesn't feel planned, just hungry. I ran because running was the only thought left in my head. I didn't look back until I hit the road, until the trees stopped chasing me. And for a while, it felt like I'd outrun the story. Like that was the end. Expulsion. Blocked numbers. Parents telling themselves it was over because that's what parents need to believe to sleep at night. But stories like that don't end cleanly. They wait. A week later, cold air crawled across my skin and dragged me awake. My window wide open like it had been breathing while I slept. 50 degrees outside. Silence inside. That ledge under my window suddenly feeling less like an emergency escape and more like a step. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself adults don't break into houses just to stand there. I told myself to stop being dramatic. And then I noticed my door wasn't open the way I left it. That tiny difference. That tiny shift. Horror lives in those details. When I cracked the door and saw someone pressed against it on the other side, my brain refused to process it. It felt fake. Like a prop in a haunted house, until it moved, until the door slammed, until my dad turned the light on and a leg vanished out my window like a bad magic trick. The police used calm voices and empty words. Lock your doors. Get cameras. There's nothing we can do. And that's another thing horror teaches you early. Closure is optional. Fear isn't. I thought that was the scariest thing that could happen in a school-related building. I was wrong. Schools are weird like that. They're full of people during the day, and somehow that makes them worse when they're empty. Freshman year gym class, a substitute who looked at me a little too long. The kind of look you can't accuse but you can't forget. A locker that suddenly won't open. A list of combinations. A laugh that doesn't match the situation. His hand on my shoulder, then lower. the lights cutting out like the building itself didn't want to see what came next. I ran through rain because rain felt cleaner than whatever that was. I didn't tell anyone because silence felt safer than being questioned. And that silence followed me, down into basements, into music halls, into places where lights flicker and footsteps echo wrong. When the power died in that storage hallway, it felt intentional, like a switch had been flipped somewhere that wasn't on a wall. The breathing I heard didn't sound human. The container scraping across the floor didn't sound accidental. And when I saw someone standing 3 feet away from me in total darkness, I learned something important. Sometimes the scariest part isn't seeing them, it's realizing they were already there, waiting for you to notice. That hand on my shoulder again, twice, squeezing, like a signature, like a reminder. I ran until the light came back and pretended that explanation was enough. Theft, equipment, a rational answer to an irrational moment. That's how adults survive these stories. They label them and move on. The rest of us carry them quietly. And then there's the basement window. The stupid broken window everyone knew about. The gate that made trespassing feel like a joke. We laughed our way inside like nothing bad had ever happened in a school after dark. Red exit signs glowing like eyes. Hallways stretching longer than they should. A bathroom stall that laughed back at me when it shouldn't have. A face peering over the wall that didn't belong to anyone I knew. That was the moment everything clicked together. The cafeteria, the woods, the locker room, the basement. Different places, different times. Same feeling, being watched, being chosen, being just close enough to danger that it could reach out and touch you. When we ran like prey. And when we stopped and looked back at the building, at that face pressed against the glass, half lit, half hidden, it felt like the school itself was watching us leave. Like it was disappointed we got away. Here's the part that messes with me the most. None of these stories end with a name. No monster reveal. No arrest. No explanation that sticks. Just empty spaces where answers should be. Sometimes I wonder if it was the same person. Sometimes I wonder if it was different people drawn to the same places. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder if places remember fear the way people do. If hallways and locker rooms and basements learn the sound of footsteps and decide when to echo them back. Because the truth is, the horror was never just the twins, or the substitute, or the man in the dark. The horror was realizing how thin the line is between normal and not. How easily a normal day can tilt into something else. And how once you've crossed that line, even just for a second, it never fully lets you go. You carry it into every quiet room, every open window, every shadow that feels just a little too patient. And maybe that's the real ending. Not that something followed me home, but that something learned how easy it was to walk beside me without being seen.